Hello, welcome back. Thank you for joining me. Let's jump right into it, shall we? Welcome to A Course in Miracles. We'll be talking about nothing less than the critical importance of true forgiveness in our experience and the forgiveness of our brother, of God. Yes, you heard that right. And ourselves. If you were expecting something else, well, welcome to A Course in Miracles. We're right here in the text, in the thick of things, right in the middle of it. Chapter 24, Section 3, paragraphs 5 through 8, to be exact. You are invited, by the way, to follow along. There are many commentaries out there on A Course in Miracles. There are many videos. This series of videos that you're watching is just one of many. So there is a lot of information out there. And all of these commentaries and these videos appear to exist here, because there's so much misunderstanding and so much confusion. And as you might imagine, I'm going to say, it's all unnecessary. There's no need to continue to be confused, even though it's going to come up as we awaken from this dream, and it is a dream. There's so much confusion. We don't have to continue to be confused. You don't have to continue. You don't have to continue to suffer. You don't have to continue to sleep. And we are asleep. This is a dream. And, well, one of the reasons why enlightenment, liberation is called awakening is because that term really does fit. We're waking up from this dream of separation, from this dream of seeing ourselves and wanting very badly and desperately to see ourselves as separate, as cut off from God, which we are not, and therefore cut off from every other living thing, seeming to be an individual self-sustaining survival unit, an ego, which takes this highly fallible organism as its cherished and coveted home, which it despises because of its sheer fallibility. So, if you're following along, we're running amok, despising ourselves. It's all going on, however, in our mind because you're not a body. This is not who I am, and your seemingly individual human body is not who you are either, and you do know that. You do know that, or you would not be interested in this. You've already begun to awaken, and you've come farther than you think. Welcome to A Course in Miracles. Go all the way. I know you're ready, or you would not be watching. Which, by the way, doesn't mean that you have to agree with that statement. And there are times when it will feel like this is a long way off, and you may be wondering when this awakening thing is ever going to happen, because we all have those days. So it's on these days that we need this extra little bit of inspiration to keep going, to continue to forgive. What's in it for you? Everything. Knowledge of who and what you are, which, by the way, is the experience of who and what you are. And I know you know what that is. I know you know who that is. I know you know where that is. So let that percolate for a little while. Again, we don't have to believe anything this course says. We have that power of decision. And this conversation appears to be happening because we have exercised this power of decision in favor of our supposed individuality, the ego, our precious little specialness, as the Course calls it. We think we're separate, we think we're cut off. It's a dream. So, how do we wake up from it? Forgive. Forgiveness in A Course in Miracles is vastly different than forgiveness as the world sees it, which is grossly misunderstood, by the way. Forgiveness, as the world sees it, keeps everything separate. Forgiveness is often lip service here in the world. It's something that we say but don't mean, and we misunderstand what we think we mean because we're taking this whole solid, concrete thing to be our reality when it's a dream. It's not who we are. Forgiveness as the world sees it maintains this false sense of separation. One stoops or deigns to forgive another for a transgression that they make all too real in their mind. We appear to transgress one another. And the one doing what passes for forgiveness often thinks of themselves as high and mighty, right? Superior, a more moral human being, vastly superior to this little lowlife that he or she has stooped and deigned to forgive this time. But if you do it again, you're in real trouble. And through that line of thinking, resentment bubbles, bubbles and festers and pops out in the form of attack and violence. Even if it's not physical, it's still going on in the mind. Forgiveness as the world sees it is not forgiveness at all. Forgiveness as taught and practiced in this course overlooks the surface level of bodies completely, overlooks all of the veneer of this world completely to the truth of what we are, who your brother really is. And I know you know who and what and where all that is too. Same. Why? There's no separation of any kind. We're not separate from God. We're not separate from each other. There is no separation at all. That is an illusion. It is a dream. It is not reality. And we all deep down know this. Yet we're afraid of this, or this conversation would not be necessary. It would not appear to be happening if we weren't torn, if we weren't torn in our mind between continuing this dream of death and separation and decay. I mean, this doesn't last. We all know that. Doesn't mean we all want to accept that, but I mean, this is 80% water and it's constantly changing. That's not eternal. The eternal does not change, it's eternal. I mean, the ideas here are pretty simple. If you're thinking, well, this is a simple idea, well, it is. We introduce all the complications ourselves, thinking, oh gosh, it's got to be more complicated than that. It can't be this simple. Not even. It has to be much more complicated. And I'm going to invent the complications to keep myself asleep because I still desire that. I know, not flattering. What do? Forgive. And whom do we forgive? What do we forgive? Well, anything that's not wholly joyous, for starters, any experience that annoys us, even in the slightest little bit, that makes us angry or sad, depressed, frustrated, anguished, confused, dazed, and afraid, anything that's not wholly joyous. And we're invited to continue to forgive. Forgive the Son of God. Forgive your brother. By this, we mean every living thing, without exception. The Son of God, the thought of God, by which we're known here in A Course in Miracles. The Son of God is the creation of God. God's the creator. We are the created. The Son of God, the extension of God. Like extends like. God extends himself. Love, i.e., God, extends itself. It does not extend other than itself. There is no other than God. God is the only reality. Now, not every religious tradition or spiritual tradition comes right out and says that, and that's fine. This course does, and you're here. God is. Period. All else is illusion, and there is nothing else. It's illusion, remember? A dream. So we're in this process where we appear to be here as human beings, doing our thing, doing life, and we need to hear these ideas over and over again so that we will be inspired to put them into practice. That's where the action is. This is a self-study curriculum, and we learn the best by doing it, by putting it into practice where our experience shows us, demonstrates to us, and proves to us. If you want proof, great, prove it to yourself, that these ideas are true, and they are. Let yourself experience this. I invite you. Forgive your brother, forgive the Son of God. And here in these few paragraphs, in chapter 24, section 3 of the text, we're invited to forgive God. Yeah, forgive the creator of all life, the source, capital S, of course, of all life. Why would we want to do that? Well, we blame him for our plight, do we not? Have you not had that at some point? That thought of, why would God do this to me? Because I mean, many of us are taught, told, inculcated, and indoctrinated, which may be a better word, isn't it, honestly, that God made all of this? Not even we did. Perfect love, i.e., God, would not set up a separation in the first place, nor would he condemn the Son of God to suffer. I mean, think about it. If there's no separation of any kind, why would there be a supposedly superior, separate being? Yes, God is the creator. God extends himself. We're one with God, not separate. Not separate. So while we appear to lie here asleep, forgiveness is the way that we awaken from the dream. What's going on here, and what is presented as a very helpful visual in these few paragraphs, is the image of the Son of God asleep on a bier, on a slab, in other words, dreaming of death, dreaming of separation, dreaming of combat and violence and all of the attack thoughts, competition with one another, defining and defending personal territory, all that ego stuff. Yeah. In other words, what passes for our lives here while we're asleep, asleep on a bier, and meanwhile, the Holy Spirit, the voice for God Himself, calls to us constantly to awaken. And we're all hearing the call in our sleep, yet we prefer sleep until we don't. That's a choice that you can make right now because the call of the Holy Spirit is constant. It's eternal, constant. It's ongoing. We have only to listen to it, and you're more awake than you imagine because you've been listening to this. And for that, I thank you. And every living thing thanks you. You may not get their appreciation, and they may not thank you. They don't have to. You know it's true. You've come farther than you think. Keep going. We're invited to continue to forgive and to continue to forgive and forgive God. Yeah, do that. Well, because we blame Him, like it or not, for not making this dream of death reality, for not making this dream of separation our reality, because we've wanted it to be our reality. So we've craved it and sought after it at every turn, yet despised it all of the time because it doesn't feel good. It doesn't bring us the peace of God. And it doesn't bring us peace at all, really. We may have interludes where we think we're peaceful, but we're still plotting against somebody or against ourselves. We're still nervous. Even if you have a lot of money, you could still be nervous that you're going to lose it all in the stock market or that someone's going to get it or it's not going to be enough. I mean, for example, yeah, our ego clinging has brought us nothing but suffering, and we do know that. So hopefully this image of the Son of God asleep on a slab, on a funeral slab, is helpful to you. I mean, it may sound like a dramatic image, but whatever it takes for us to awaken. And you may find that you need that extra little bit of macabre. I don't know, maybe it helps. I mean, we're angry at God and we blame Him for our plight. Have you ever done that? Blamed God for making your life miserable? He didn't do that. There's no separation of any kind. It is our wish to be separate that has done that. We've brought all of this on ourselves. So I'm fond of saying here on this series of videos, and if you've listened to these before, you've no doubt heard that spirituality's for grown-ups. You're a grown-up. It's an adult endeavor because it's about bringing all of our stuff. There are plenty of other words. One of them in particular in the English language begins with the letter S, and you may substitute that for stuff. We bring that to the light of truth. We bring all of our illusions to truth. The light of truth shines them away. Keep forgiving. We forgive our brother. We forgive God. We give them the love that they want. We give love to what appear to be others. We give it away. When we truly forgive, we recognize that there's no separation of any kind. Why? We look right past all of the surface level stuff to the truth of what really is. And we extend this love that we may love ourselves. Who are we extending this forgiveness to if there's no separation of any kind? Ourselves. When we lash out, who do we attack? Ourselves. There's no separation of any kind. So, what would you rather experience? Love or extraordinary hatred? Again, this is for grown-ups. We don't have to choose love right now. You don't have to. You could wait the rest of this lifetime. We've done this way too much. Made ourselves suffer to prove that we were right. Well, would you rather be right or happy? That's a line from this course, too, by the way. So we do have this power of choice right now, the power of decision in the present moment. What you give to your brother, you give to yourself. There's no separation. There's no difference between the two. And the more we forgive, the more we recognize this. That is how we awaken from the dream. We come to see things as they really are. We come to perceive them truly, to see ourselves as we really are, to see our brother as he really is, to see the world for what it is not. Yeah. From there, truth dawns of itself. That's enlightenment. But we must first perceive truly, 100%. In other words, our forgiveness is either total, or it's not at all. We can't withhold forgiveness of even one microorganism and expect to experience the peace of God. Though we may have glimpses along the way, many of you have had very powerful experiences of this. That is entirely possible. So the more that you forgive, the more you'll look at all of this differently. And we're learning to look at it with the Holy Spirit, with Jesus, with the guidance of our inner teacher. We're expressing a willingness, and I invite you to show up with that willingness to see things as they really are. And that's what this whole course is about, which does mean bringing all of our stuff, our drama, to light. Bring it to truth and let the light of truth shine it away. Bring it up. Our keeping it secret and cut off and shut off to ourselves is bringing us nothing but suffering. Because it stews and percolates and festers, ferments in our mind. It rots in there, if that's helpful. So we're all invited to forgive and to continue to forgive. So hopefully this conversation has been of some help to you. If you're still watching, then you will have heard probably more than one message that's directly meant for you from our inner teacher. I never know what that may be when these conversations start. My job is simply to turn on the camera and microphone. When something lands for you, it's the Holy Spirit. This is nothing special. We're not a body, after all. And you know that. So let's accept that and extend love and keep extending love. When you're tempted to withhold it, extend it. Give it. Forgive the Son of God. Forgive God Himself. Forgive space, time, the ego, the whole world. Forgive whatever comes up in your experience that is not wholly joyous. That. Forgive it. The Holy Spirit will give you the verbiage, or maybe it's just a feeling with no words at all. What matters is that we're willing to do it and that we do it. So I invite you to do just that. All right. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. If you have not yet subscribed, this is the prompt in the corner of your screen. Click that icon. You'll be invited to join us. And I welcome your questions too. The comment thread here on YouTube is a perfect place to ask questions related to A Course in Miracles or related to spirituality in general. It makes no difference. Whatever is coming up for you, please feel free to ask. And I thank you, as always, for tuning in. And, well, no one ever said this was shallow. That you deserve nothing less than this pointing to truth. Yeah. It's true after all, right? You deserve nothing less. All right. Thank you for joining me.